Singers, I have a very important question to ask you. Do you take the time to warm up your voice before engaging in more intense singing activities? Now, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard from your singing teachers and all over the internet about the importance of warming up your singing voice, and yet I'll bet a lot of you answered no to my question. Now, singing is an athletic endeavor. It engages the entire body. And so we as singers, vocal athletes, need to treat our bodies in very much the same way that athletes or dancers might before we put our voices through the rigors of our repertoire. Warming up allows us to loosen up our vocal apparatus, get our breathing mechanism going, shake off any excess tensions that we've built up during the day so that they don't accumulate further while we're vocalizing, and also to mentally and emotionally prepare for the songs that we're going to sing in a little bit. So a lot of you are very curious to know about how long we should spend warming up our voices. And I always state that that really depends entirely upon the individual. There are certain factors that definitely affect how long it takes us to really warm up our voices. One of which is our natural vocal weight. Generally speaking, lighter lyric instruments take a little less time to warm up than heavier weighted instruments, more robust instruments. Also, the time of the day makes a difference. Most of us require a little bit, if not a lot more time to warm up our voices in the mornings than we do later on in the day. And that's because we haven't had the full day to be able to use our voices even in speech. So it takes us a little bit longer. And the third factor that really plays a role in this is what we're going to be singing, what kinds of demands we're going to be placing on our instruments. If we are just singing light songs, crooning, we're probably not going to need quite as much warm-up time as we would if we were singing in really high tessitures or really intense singing if we're belting. Generally speaking, our bodies will tell us when we're ready to move on to something that's a little bit more demanding of them. So just listen to your instrument, feel. If you find that you start singing a song and it doesn't quite sit right, it's not quite sounding right or feeling right, then just go back to doing a little bit more warming up or engage in some vocal training exercises and then come back to the song again in a few minutes and see if that makes a difference. I differentiate between warm-up exercises and vocal training exercises. Warm-up exercises are designed to sort of just limber up the whole body and the vocal instrument and get us prepared for what lies ahead in the practice session. But vocal training exercises generally focus on vocal development, technical development, and oftentimes specifically in one area of our technique. They're a little bit more intense, a little bit more demanding of our instrument, and they're going to get us that much closer to being able to sing the kinds of songs that we want to sing. Vocal warm-ups, on the other hand, are designed to be a little bit lighter. They're just kind of getting the instrument up and going, getting the breath mechanism up and going. When it comes to warming up the voice, just about anything can count as a warm-up. Stretches, vocal scales and exercises, even simple songs, so long as they obey my one golden rule for warming up. And that is that the voice should never be taken immediately or early on to any extremes in pitch, intensity, or voice quality. Otherwise, just about anything can qualify as a warm-up. Before diving into vocalizing, it's always a good idea to physically stretch the body, especially if you're someone like me who tends to hold a lot of tensions in my muscles, especially in certain areas of my body. So take some time, just sort of shake everything off, loosen everything up, stretch the neck, bend at the hip, stretch the arms, stretch the shoulders, massage the facial muscles, get the jaw loose, get the tongue feeling a little bit less tense. Raspberries, motor hums. Again, you just don't want to be starting off your singing session with these pre-existing tensions because they're only going to be exacerbated when you start engaging your whole body in this athletic endeavor that we call singing. Some singers like to start out with silent breathing exercises to sort of awaken the breathing mechanism. For example, the Farinelli exercise. It's a good way just to get things going. Get the breathing mechanism going. We can also do things like panting. I am not a huge fan of panting exercises because they tend to involve forcefully thrusting the abdominal wall in, usually in these intermittent spurts, and I don't think that there's really any vocal situation in which we would ever support that way. Even in staccato singing, the inward movement of the abdominal wall is not typically forceful like that. So I don't like to do them. Some people do. If it works for you, that's great. You might build some core abdominal strength. Buzzing and hissing exercises, though, those are pretty good because they're essentially semi-occluded phonations. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment. I like to just do any kind of and then I puff off whatever air I have left over. I would do this maybe on several different pitches. It just gets things going down in here. So I like to start off with lip and tongue tip trills. Again, I just feel like they just kind of loosen everything up in here in the facial muscles, the lips, the tongue. Of course, if you're somebody who does tend to produce these with a lot of tension, really, really tight in here, these are probably not the best warm-up exercises for you to do. But what I like about them is these lip rolls and tongue tip trills, they use only the thinner edge function of the vocal folds, so we're actually able to take our voices up higher in pitch earlier on in our warm-up, very safely, very effectively. They're not using a lot of vocal fold mass. And like other semi-occluded phonations, they help to create an efficiency in inertive reactance within the vocal tract, and that helps to sustain vocal fold vibration and keep it very, very consistent, and it also actually helps to open up the vocal tract. You can also accomplish the same kind of thing with phonating through straw, so flow-resistant straws, basically just putting a straw between your lips, forming a nice seal, not tight, you don't want to tense anything, just a nice complete seal around that straw. Smaller diameter straws are going to be a little bit more beneficial, but you can always start off with a larger diameter and then make your way down to smaller diameter. So I just usually start off with these simple arpeggiated patterns. Again, everything has to stay nice and, we'll say relaxed, you're not really relaxing, but nice and relaxed in order for you to be able to get those trills up and going and to be able to sustain them through the whole pattern. Some singers like to perform exercises that get their articulators going, like tongue twisters or maybe silly exercises like it's a little bit of like a turkey exercise. I actually like to do this ang-na-na exercise. Ang-na-na. It's basically performed on a simple major triad. Ang-na-na, 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 ang-na-na. Ang-na-na, 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 ang-na-na. Ang-na-na, 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 ang-na-na. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Slow it down at first, and then you'll find over time you're probably able to speed it up when you start being able to move the articulators around with minimal muscular contraction and effort. And from there, you may wish to move on to singing simple short scale patterns on single vowel sounds. And again, we want to keep those patterns short initially, with the exception of when we're performing them on a lip or tongue tip trill, because we don't want to have the voice moving up too high in pitch too soon. I would just sing a simple 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 scale. Focus on vowel definition. And again, the reason why I would keep that scale really short is so that I'm not allowing my voice to go too high too soon. And generally, I would encourage students to allow the voice to transition to bridge early into this lighter mechanism of the voice, head-voice coordination, M2 coordination, whatever you'd like to call it. Again, this is a warm-up exercise, and the idea is to really just get the vocal instrument going, not to be too heavy, too intense with the task, and save the bridging later, or the not bridging at all, for a little bit later in the practice session when you're a little bit more warmed up. Gradually move into that heavier singing. Before I move on to singing songs, I usually spend a little bit of time doing some twang and mixed voice exercises because I'm working on some musical theater pieces and actively working on my belt technique, and the twang and the mixed voice help a lot with that. Now, of course, you can sing in a mixed coordination and apply twang quality to any exercise. I have a couple go-to exercises that I like to sing because I find that they work very effectively for getting my voice making the kinds of sounds that I ultimately want to make in the songs that I'm going to be singing. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, 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 nya. Or yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So from this point, test out your voice and see if it's ready yet to sing the kinds of songs that you need to practice. If it's not, go back to doing a little bit more warming up, getting your voice a little bit more ready for it. If it's pretty close to it, then maybe start out with a song that's not quite as challenging technically, not quite as difficult, doesn't place quite as many demands on your voice, and then gradually build up in terms of intensity with your voice. So tomorrow I plan to record a video on how to practice, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek into my own private practice sessions over the last few days. So stay tuned, and please take a moment to subscribe to this channel so that you'll receive a notification when I get my next video posted. Thank you so much for watching today.